Hello OCR students, we're now getting ready for the big paper 3. No matter how paper 1 or paper 2 have gone, paper 3 is a chance to make some serious gains, to push you to that top grade. Who knows, paper 3 could be the difference. So it's very important that in the time left before paper 3, you're doing the right things, you're preparing yourself as best as you possibly can for that exam. What I'm going to do in this video is give you all the key advice of what you need to be doing in this time before paper 3, making sure you're getting yourself ready as best as possible, but also doing a run through of the exam, making sure you're ready for all the unique elements of paper 3 and that you know exactly what's going to come when that exam features. All right, so make sure you stay tuned, take everything in and be as good as you can for paper 3. I'm going to give you 6 pieces of advice, guys, of how to use this final time before paper 3. This is really fundamental. The first thing, guys, is don't worry about predictions. Paper 3 is a synoptic paper and it's going to be really based around extracts. Once you've done the multiple choice questions, you're going to have lots of extracts. That's where your essay questions are going to come from. Nobody knows what that topic area could be. Nobody can. If anyone says that they can or thinks that they can, completely ignore it. You don't need to worry about predictions at all because the extracts will give you everything you need and nobody knows. So don't get into all of that faff. Don't waste time thinking about all of that. Absolutely no concern whatsoever. Having said that, what would be worth giving an extra bit of weight to in your revision is some of the major topic areas in the course that haven't featured yet. So maybe what you can do, go back over the micro hot topics, macro hot topics, go back over what's come up over the previous years. If there are any major topic areas that haven't featured at all, give an extra 5-10% weight to those. That'll be useful to do, but don't get wrapped around in predictions. Don't get too stuck about, oh, you know, he said that and someone has said that. Forget about predictions. Just focus on content mastery. Next thing, number 2, key piece of advice is make sure you know this exam paper inside out. There are some unique elements. The structure is different to paper 1 and paper 2. You've got to know the structure inside out. This video is going to help when we go through the run through. That will make sure that you nail it, but you need to be 100% prepared for exactly what's going to come up. You need to know inside out exactly what's going on, whether it's structure, whether it's time management, whether it's some of the unique elements of the question. So that's absolutely fundamental. Number 3, major piece of advice is that you guys need to spend this time mastering content. Content is so fundamentally important. Paper 3 is synoptic, meaning it's a micro and macro paper over the 2 years. So everything from micro and macro over the 2-year course, you need to be a master of it. Now, it shouldn't be that difficult to do that because you've got great notes from micro, you've got great notes from macro, you've done the 2 papers, it's all there. So you need to make sure your content is still ticking over, revise those notes, go over those notes, watch videos. Make sure though that you know everything. As we've seen from paper 1 and paper 2, anything can feature. So you've got to make sure that if you left a couple of gaps for paper 1 and paper 2 and got away with it, make sure you don't leave any gaps now for paper 3, bearing in mind you're not going to have any choices at all in paper 3. So whatever question comes, you've got to answer. So every single knowledge area of the course, you've got to be 100% confident that you know it all perfectly. Okay, so content mastery is key. Test yourself as you're going through the notes and make sure you are a master of everything. Then it's a case of practicing questions, guys. Go with multiple choice first. Now, this time multiple choice is going to be brilliant. Why? Because you know you're going to have multiple choice questions in paper 3. So again, multiple choice questions are a great test of content. Continually go over those, but also plan essays. Just like you did for paper 1 and paper 2, plan essays, but make sure you are used to doing essays based on extract material. So if that's weighing up questions using extracts, 100% that's the way to go forward. Make sure you know how to read extracts well and get your points from the extracts. You should be very good at doing that considering you had 8 and 12 markers in paper 1 and paper 2. But planning essays, again, is a very efficient use of time and definitely the way to go, knowing that your essays are going to be coming from extract material. That is 100% the way to go. And the last piece of advice number 6, is that don't worry about mixing micro and macro into essay questions. OCR don't require that at all. The essay questions that will feature, if it's a micro related question, then just micro points are fine. If it's a macro related question, just macro points are fine. OCR don't want you to merge micro and macro per question necessarily at all. It's not an expectation. The way they go with micro and macro is just to mix and match between the questions. All right, so don't need to worry about your micro effects, your macro effects. Don't worry at all. You guys just focus on content mastery. That's the most important thing for you. Okay, great. Knowing that key piece of advice right there and all the other key bits that I've said, let's now move on to the walkthrough of the exam and make sure you can nail that exam when it comes. Paper 3 is going to be broken down into 2 sections. You're going to have your multiple choice questions coming first in section A. There are going to be 30 multiple choice questions there, and they can be on absolutely anything in the course, whether micro or macro, over the 2 years. See, this is why your content mastery is so important. If you know your stuff well, these multiple choice questions are going to be an absolute breeze. In fact, guys, these multiple choice questions are an absolute gift, a gift from the economics gods. And whenever that's the case, we should take a pause and just thank the economics gods for giving us these beautiful gifts. This is a way for you to really bolster your marks and go towards the top levels. This is in your control. If you practice these well, if you know your content well, you can hit the very, very high marks on these multiple choice questions. Now that's in your control though. So first of all, are you mastering the content? And second, are you practicing these questions? That's the key if you're going to get the top marks. Now, where to go for practice? Do not go to external providers of multiple choice questions. Stick to exam board multiple choice questions. Obviously, stick to OCR. You've got 2 past papers that you can go to, multiple choice questions there. You've got the 2 spec papers you can go to. That's 120 multiple choice questions you can practice right away. You can also go to CIE. CIE is your sister exam board. There are plenty of multiple choice questions you can find there as well. That's a great place to go. Outside of that, you can even go to other exam boards like AQA and have a go at lots of multiple choice questions that they offer as well. Now stick to exam boards, especially stick to OCR and CIE. They're very, very good. Don't go to external providers. Why? Because I'm going to give you techniques whereby even if you don't know the answer to a given multiple choice question, you can still get the correct answer. But that technique is based around the exam board style of multiple choice. Problem is, when you go to external providers, they will not write them in the same way as your exam board will. And therefore, if you're trying to practice some of these techniques, you're not going to be able to use them well. It's not going to work. So stick to exam board multiple choice question practice, all right? OCR first, 100%, then go to CIE, and then maybe you can go to boards like AQA. Now, here is some great technique when you're doing multiple choice questions, which you can practice before paper 3, as well as in the exam itself. Right, first piece of advice is hunt down exactly what the question is asking. Often, if there are diagrams, if there are tables, if there are charts, there'll be a few lines just explaining what that diagram is showing or kind of telling you what's being shown on that chart or on that table. But we don't need to read that. We have eyes, right? We can see that ourselves. So we don't need to waste time reading all that unnecessary information. In fact, often there'll be a lot of waffle before they actually get to what the question is asking. What I'd recommend is go into the exam with a highlighter and actually highlight what is the question actually asking. That will focus your mind so much better then when you're looking for the correct answer. That's the first piece of advice for getting these multiple choice questions correct. Second thing is that there is always going to be a distractor. This is how examiners write multiple choice questions. There will always be a distractor. What is that? That is an answer that might seem like it could be correct, but is actually wrong. What does that mean? You've got a correct answer, you've got a distractor, which is there to fool you basically, and then you've got clearly 2 wrong answers, 2 very clear wrong answers. So if you're struggling to get the correct answer, you can start by eliminating the 2 clear wrong answers. Now that's great because a 50-50 is much better than a 1 in 4, right? And that's what you're left with if you can eliminate the 2 clear wrong answers. And then hopefully your economic skill can take you then to the correct answer from the 2 that remain. So that's a great tip right there. Next tip for multiple choice is scribble things down. Your multiple choice questions will not be marked by a human, they'll be marked by a computer. So any white space on that paper, you can scribble things down. Maybe that's a diagram to help you get the answer. Maybe it's a calculation, maybe it's a chain of analysis. Whatever it might be, scribble it down. Let your brain go through process on paper. Don't keep it all up there and just think your brain can do so much, because in 30 questions, no doubt you're going to have tiredness, no doubt silly errors will creep in. So write everything down, keep things clear on paper, and that way you can actually get to the correct answer much easier. Remember that it's not kind of testing any evaluation multiple choice questions, it's just a theory test. So don't be too clever, just knowledge of theory, no need to evaluate any of the questions at all or think deeper. Pure theory test. And the other key thing is that time is fundamental, that you get through these fast. No more, guys, than 30 minutes maximum. If you can do less than that, great. You can then use the extra time for your essays later, but maximum 30 minutes. You've got to be quick, and that's where your content mastery comes in. That's where your practice comes in, all right? So multiple choice is right there for you. Great tips and advice. You've got to make sure you can hit high marks there. And then we go into section B. Section B will be based around loads of extracts, whether extracts have got tables in them, charts in them, whether they're just writing based. You'll have a variety of these extracts, a bit like what you saw in paper 1 and paper 2, the same kind of thing. And then you'll have a variety of questions linked to those. My recommendation is don't read all the extracts first. Your reading time of the extract should come when those questions come. And the questions will come in order of the extracts, right? So you'll read them in order as you're answering the questions. So don't have any specific, let's say 10 minutes of reading time, no need for that. Read the extract, get into the extracts only when the question specifies you to go into the extract. That's a good way to go. You're going to have short questions again, your little 2 markers, your little 4 markers. Do them as normal. Avoid silly errors with those questions, just like in paper 1 and paper 2. If it says calculate, remember your working out, remember your units. If it says illustrate using a diagram, make sure that diagram is nailed, no errors, etc. The same thing in paper 1 and paper 2 with the short questions. Don't make silly errors. You've then got your major essay questions. You've got 1 8 marker and then you've got 2 15 markers. The 8 marker is exactly the same as the 8 marker in paper 1 and paper 2. Exactly the same structure that you used, follow exactly the same use of extracts. So my recommendation is 1 pro, 1 con, and then it depends on judgment paragraph. Use the same style and smash that 8 marker, no problem at all. But now you've got 2 15 mark questions. We've not seen 15 markers before at all, but I wouldn't worry too much about them. Think of them as little mini 25 mark questions. Again, they're going to be based on extract material. So all the points that you need, you can drive them from the extract, so that will help you big time. But in terms of structure, very similar to a 25 marker. So think about your 25 marker structure. How many points were you writing? Were you writing 3 points? Were you evaluating 3? Were you evaluating 2? My recommendation on the 15 marker is cut a point out from your 25 mark plan. So if you're looking at 2 points evaluated with a judgment, that could be a very good way to go. Your judgment, though, needs to be the same style as your 25 marker judgment in paper 1 and paper 2. Check out my judgment video if you want more guidance on that, all right? So that's what you need for your 15 mark. Is simple. Remember, no mix micro and macro, no need for that. Just stick to the basic plan there. Get your points from the extracts, develop those well with theory, and then you'll be absolutely fine. That's all you need to do. OCR are very good that way. Your paper 3 isn't that difficult and that unique with your structure and expectations. So if you plan hard, practice well, then you'll be absolutely fine. Last thing I'll say is that all of this technique, all this advice is covered in my OCR exam technique playlist. You'll see all the key bits you need there, going through question by question, making sure you're ready to go. Also giving my key tips and advice there as well. So check that out if you want detailed advice per question. But that should cover you guys for OCR paper 3, exactly what you need to be doing now to make sure you're revising effectively and then going through that exam, knowing it inside out, knowing what you need to do to hit the highest level of marks. No doubt you'll smash it, no doubt you'll work hard. It's a chance of major gains. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Stay tuned for the next series of videos coming forward. That'll be quite helpful for you as well. And I'll see you all in the next video.